the average American household spent $78,233 on consumer expenditures in 2024. That's up 5.1% from the previous year. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, wages rose 3.8% during the same period. Do the math. Spending is climbing faster than earning. And when that happens year after year, something important starts to happen inside the average household budget. Even if your paycheck gets bigger, your financial life may not actually be getting better. The gap between what things cost and what people can comfortably afford keeps getting wider. But here's what makes the situation even more interesting. A large portion of household spending goes toward things that once seemed perfectly reasonable, but have gradually become much harder to justify. Not because those products suddenly became useless, because the economics changed. A service that used to cost a few dollars now carries multiple fees. A purchase that used to be occasional has become a monthly habit. A product that used to provide a meaningful upgrade now offers little more than a slightly newer version of what you already own. Inflation is part of the story, but it isn't the whole story. Businesses have become better at monetizing convenience. Subscription companies have turned one-time purchases into recurring charges. Retailers have made financing so easy that the total price can disappear behind a small monthly payment. And consumers are often encouraged to think about what something costs today, rather than what that spending could become over the next 5, 10, or 20 years. That changes the financial equation. Some purchases that felt completely normal 5 years ago deserve a second look in 2026, not because you should stop enjoying your money, but because you should know when you're paying for genuine value and when you're simply paying more for convenience, status, habit, or marketing. So let's look at 12 spending categories that may no longer deserve as much of your money as they once did. Number 1, food delivery. Food delivery is a perfect example of how convenience can quietly become a major expense. Imagine you want dinner. You open an app, find a restaurant, and see a meal listed at $15. That sounds reasonable, but the number on the menu isn't necessarily the number that reaches your bank account. The restaurant may charge different prices through the delivery platform. Then come the delivery fee, service fee, taxes, tip, and potentially other charges. A meal that looked like $15 can suddenly become $25 a month. The occasional order isn't the problem. If you're exhausted after a long workday, paying for convenience can be perfectly reasonable. The problem appears when ordering becomes automatic. Suppose you're spending an extra $12 or $15 every time you order and doing it twice a week. Over a year, that can easily become more than $200 spent simply to avoid cooking or driving. And if you invested that money instead, it wouldn't just remain just $200. It could compound. That's the opportunity cost hidden inside convenience. Number 2, buying brand new cars. There is something psychologically powerful about driving a new car. Everything is clean. The technology is current. Nobody has owned it before you. But financially, new cars can be difficult to justify. A vehicle begins losing value as soon as you take ownership, and the early years generally contain some of the largest depreciation. Now add financing. You're not just paying for the vehicle, you're paying interest, insurance, fuel, maintenance, registration, taxes, and depreciation. A $45,000 car can therefore become a much larger financial commitment than the sticker price suggests. A reliable used vehicle can change the equation. You can still get dependable transportation without paying for the steepest part of the depreciation curve. The goal isn't to buy the cheapest car possible. The goal is to avoid turning transportation into a wealth-destroying lifestyle expense. Your vehicle needs to move you. It doesn't need to prove anything to your neighbors. Number 3, eating at restaurants as a routine. Restaurants aren't inherently bad spending. Food is part of life. Celebrations matter. Meeting friends matters. The problem is repetition without reflection. A $30 dinner doesn't feel like a major financial decision. But if a household spends $150 or $200 every weekend eating out, the annual number becomes enormous. That's when a lifestyle habit becomes a financial strategy, whether you intended it to or not. Cooking at home can reduce that expense dramatically, and you don't have to become someone who spends 2 hours every Sunday preparing elaborate meals. Simple food works. The point isn't to eliminate restaurants. It's to make restaurant spending something you choose, rather than something that simply happens. Number 4, keeping every streaming subscription. Streaming was once marketed as the escape from expensive cable bundles, but the entertainment landscape has changed. Instead of paying one company for hundreds of channels, consumers now have dozens of separate services competing for monthly payments. One series is exclusive to one platform. Another movie is somewhere else. Sports may require another subscription. And suddenly, the cheap alternative to cable isn't so cheap anymore. The bigger problem is inertia. People sign up for a service because there's one show they want to watch. They finish the show. then they forget to cancel. 6 months later, they're still paying. A better system is simple. Rotate. Use one service for a month or two. Watch what interests you. Cancel it. Move to another platform. You don't need every entertainment library available at the same time. Number 5, fast food. Fast food used to win on 2 things: speed and price. The speed is still there. The price advantage isn't always. Once a fast food meal starts approaching the price of a basic restaurant meal, its original value proposition becomes much weaker. And then there's the hidden cost. If inexpensive convenience food becomes a regular part of your diet, the long-term consequences can potentially show up in healthcare expenses, energy levels, and quality of life. You don't need to eliminate fast food forever. But if you're paying premium prices for food that you could prepare at home quickly, it's worth asking what you're actually paying for. Number 6, constantly upgrading technology. Every year, companies release something newer. A better camera, a faster processor, a brighter screen, a slightly different design. And every year, consumers are encouraged to believe their current device is suddenly inadequate. But ask yourself something. What did your phone actually need to do today? Did you need a better camera? Did you need more processing power? Did your current device stop working? Or did a new advertisement simply convince you that newer meant better? If your current device performs the tasks you need, keeping it longer can be one of the easiest ways to reduce unnecessary spending. You don't have to own the newest technology to have a modern life. Number 7, expensive weddings. A wedding can be beautiful without being financially destructive. But the modern wedding industry can turn almost every detail into a premium-priced purchase. The venue, the flowers, the photography, the decorations, the food, the entertainment, the clothing. And once the word wedding is attached to something, the price can rise dramatically. The real danger isn't spending money on a celebration. It's spending money you don't actually have. If paying for the wedding means taking on high-interest debt, delaying retirement savings, draining your emergency fund, or postponing important financial goals, the celebration may be costing far more than the receipt suggests. The ceremony lasts a day. The financial consequences can last years. Number 8, vacations financed with debt. Travel can be one of the best uses of money. You experience new places. You spend time with people you care about. You create memories. But there is a major difference between paying for a vacation and borrowing to fund one. Imagine returning home from a fantastic trip and then spending the next 12 months making credit card payments for it. The vacation ended. The bill didn't. You don't need a luxury resort to have a great trip. You can choose cheaper destinations. Travel during less expensive periods. Take shorter trips. Drive instead of fly when practical. The goal isn't to remove enjoyment from your life. It's to prevent a one-week experience from creating months of financial stress. Number 9, buy now, pay later financing. This is where psychology becomes extremely important. A $500 purchase can feel painful. 5 payments of $100 can feel harmless. But the total hasn't changed. You're still spending $500. The smaller payment simply makes the purchase easier to accept emotionally. That's why these services deserve caution. They can make consumers focus on affordability today rather than affordability overall. And once you have several purchases running simultaneously, those little payments can pile up. One $50 payment isn't scary. 5 of them are $250 every month. And suddenly, a person can be earning a good income while having very little available cash. If you need a payment plan to make an everyday purchase feel affordable, stop and ask whether the purchase itself is necessary. Number 10, paying for logos. Sometimes a brand genuinely represents better quality. Sometimes it represents nothing more than recognition. You can see this everywhere. Household products, clothing, food, cleaning supplies, over-the-counter medicines. 2 products may perform nearly the same job while carrying dramatically different prices. That doesn't mean you should buy generic everything. It means you should compare. Ask yourself what you're actually receiving for the additional money. If the answer is better quality, durability, or performance, the premium may be justified. If the answer is simply a logo, you're paying for marketing. And over hundreds of purchases, those small premiums can become thousands of dollars. Number 11, subscription boxes. Subscription boxes turn spending into something almost invisible. You don't make a fresh purchasing decision every month. The charge simply arrives. At first, it's exciting. Then the novelty fades. But the automatic payment continues. Eventually, you may have products sitting around your home that you never would have purchased individually. That's the danger of recurring spending. The individual charge looks small. The cumulative cost isn't. Go through your bank statements and credit card statements. Find every recurring charge. Then ask yourself a brutally simple question. If this subscription disappeared tomorrow, would I immediately notice? If the answer is no, that's probably a subscription worth reconsidering. Number 12, expensive daily coffee. Coffee isn't financially dangerous. Habitual spending without awareness is. A $6 coffee seems insignificant, but 5 days a week can turn into roughly $2,500 a year. And that's before considering what that money could have become if it had been invested consistently for decades. This doesn't mean you need to give up your favorite coffee shop. Maybe that daily coffee genuinely makes your morning better. That's fine. The important thing is that you know what you're choosing. Because there's a difference between saying, I love this enough to spend $1,500 a year on it, and saying, I never thought about how much it costs. That distinction applies to almost everything on this list. The real problem isn't food delivery. It isn't coffee. It isn't a new phone. It isn't travel. The deeper problem is unconscious spending. Modern businesses have become extremely good at reducing the psychological pain of spending money. One click, one tap, one subscription, 4 installments, a monthly payment, a limited time offer. And before you know it, your income has increased, but your financial freedom hasn't. That's why one of the most important financial exercises you can do in 2026 is incredibly simple. Look at where your money actually went during the last 3 months. Not where you think it went, where it actually went. Look for recurring charges. Look for convenience spending. Look for purchases you barely remember. Look for things you bought because everyone else seemed to have them. Then ask yourself, would I make this same purchase today if I had to consciously decide again? Some things will survive that test. Keep them. Some won't. Cut them. Others may simply need to become less frequent. That's how you create financial breathing room without making your life miserable. Because building wealth isn't about refusing to spend money. It's about directing money toward things that genuinely improve your life. You can spend more on what matters to you and less on what doesn't. You can enjoy restaurants without eating out every night. You can travel without financing luxury. You can own good technology without replacing it every year. You can enjoy coffee without turning it into an automatic daily expense. The goal isn't to become cheap. The goal is to become intentional. Because every dollar you spend has another possible destination. It can disappear into a fee. It can pay for a convenience you barely remember. Or it can become savings. It can eliminate debt. It can buy an investment. It can create financial security. It can eventually give you something far more valuable than another purchase. Options. And in 2026, when so many businesses are competing to capture your next dollar, learning to recognize the difference between something you want, something you need, and something you're simply being trained to buy may be one of the most valuable financial skills you can develop.